Hi everybody, my name is Barry Schwartz and this is the Search Buzz video recap. Today is Friday, March 29th, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com over the past week. First up, there was likely a Google search update, maybe a tweak, maybe some fluctuations, maybe a reversal, maybe something around March 26th, March 27th, and also for the past couple days after that. Some are thinking it's kind of like tweaking the March 12th Google Core March 2019 update. And some are saying it's a new thing by itself. So definitely take a look at that. There's definitely fluctuations there. Some people say they've recovered. Some people say it's new things. And around that also is that we saw that there was also some fluctuations and tweaks around March 20th to March 22nd. So definitely it looks like Google's tweaking that core algorithm or releasing some small updates around that as well. So definitely take a look at your analytics and rankings and see what's going on there. Google has officially dropped the info command. The info command was commonly used by SEOs and webmasters to see what Google thought was the canonical URL of that URL that you inputted. So if you did info of this specific URL in Google, it would tell you what Google thought was the real URL that Google had in their index, the one that they actually mixed signals to it. It worked across any site you wanted to because it worked in Google search. Now Google has removed that. They said it was a very underused feature. They added it to the URL inspection tool, which means that you need to have verified access to that domain name in order to see what Google selected as a canonical URL. So if it says the inspected URL, that means that Google thinks the URL you put in there is the actual canonical URL that Google has selected. It died officially. You couldn't use it starting, I believe it was Wednesday afternoon. It stopped working, and I'm not even sure what comes up. Just random stuff from that domain name comes up now when you put it in. But what you'll see here is that I did an inspect URL on a property that I own, HTTP, not the S version, the HTTP version. It says the HTTPS version of that URL is the Google selected canonical. Again, you need to have verified access to this in order to see that. You don't need verified access of this to see that, etc. So hopefully that makes sense. But you can't do it across any domain name. You have to have access to that domain name to do so. I posted the survey results. We had over 500, close to 515 or so survey responses to the Google March 2019 Core Update survey I posted. And the truth is I didn't really see any real patterns. It was a little bit skewed because I emailed the previous people who took the August 1st Core Update survey, which was obviously I named the Medic Update because of the slant in terms of health websites, health and wellness websites that got hit. And with that, I didn't really see, it was actually less. Fewer people said it was, fewer the sites that were submitted were actually health related, which was interesting. So anyway, I asked, were you impacted by the Google Update? And 58% negative impact, 33% said positive. Did you recover from previous updates, which said 56% said yes, 44% said no, which is interesting. Negative, or see that? It doesn't make really sense, but whatever. I asked them, what did you do to improve your websites to try to recover? A lot of people said nothing, improve content, technical SEO, etc. And I also asked, I actually analyzed each site manually and said, all right, what category of sites would this fall into? And what you got here is still most of them I would categorize as health. A lot of them are just content websites, e-commerce websites, directory-based websites, a lot of auto sites, agency-related sites like SEOs or web development or software development companies. So it's a huge mix of sites, and this number of health was actually 10 points higher in the previous survey with the August 1st update. So a lot of these health sites are also e-commerce related or directory-related. So it's kind of a mix, and I wouldn't necessarily call this something specific to a medical related update at all. I would say it's not medical related at all. It's just core, like Google said, core related. And I looked at each site manually, and some were really bad sites, some were really good sites, some were really nice UX, some were really bad UX, some had ads all over the place, some did not. So again, there was no real pattern in terms of one type of specific tactic that was hit or whatever. And definitely take a look at these results, but it really doesn't tell you much that it was really a broad type of update. Thank you for all those submitted those results, because otherwise I wouldn't have come to that conclusion. Bing announced a bunch of updates they did in the past month or so. They did major updates to their intelligent answers, where they can actually answer questions that are a little bit more complicated. The example they gave was, what are the different types of lighting for a living room versus, like, that's a very complicated question, versus like, what is the capital of Bangladesh, which is a much easier answer. They improved their text-to-speech capabilities, where it sounds more human-like. And visual search now lets you use an image to search for other images, which I thought they had before, but they said it's new. Google AMP and mobile friendly test now lets you edit code in line, so you can actually change the code in the editor tool itself and then run the test directly in the editor tool, and Google will then go ahead and say, what are the results of that? So it's a pretty cool feature to have. Google has this with several of their testing tools, and they added it to the AMP and mobile friendly testing tool. Google's Rel Next and Prev, we discussed it last week that they haven't supported it. They haven't supported in years. It's very interesting to see their messaging. The messaging has been, since they announced this, that nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. They keep saying nothing has changed. It's kind of funny that they keep saying that, because truth is, yeah, nothing has changed, but people didn't know that nothing has changed. It's like telling people, I don't know, that you're allowed to drive through stoplights, and then all of a sudden say, well, we haven't been allowed to do that for years, and now we're going to start issuing tickets. It's kind of like that, in my opinion. Maybe not as extreme, but you get my point. Again, you keep saying the same thing. Google says nothing has changed. Keep pagination the way you've been doing it. Keep Rel Next Prev there. Make your content on each page stand on their own. That's their messaging. That's what you should take away from this. But you might want to consider making changes, in my opinion. Gary from Google is the one who actually found this. Gary basically said, Gary is the one who actually found out that Google was no longer honoring the Rel Next Prev. John said so. Gary's the master of finding this. Gary said you could blame it on me. And he actually wrote the post as well. So thank you to Gary to actually finding it. Who knows if Gary wasn't there and wasn't looking, how long it would be, maybe another 5 years until Google would actually tell us that they're no longer supporting Rel Next Prev. Google did apologize, and they did say that they're going to try to do better and make sure they don't miss these things again and make sure to communicate better in the future. So they did apologize. Google said accents in URLs work fine, so things like this. These little accents in there, those work fine. I think it works fine with Bing as well, so just keep that in mind. Google said it's okay to redirect lower quality pages to higher quality pages. When you do a redirect, what's happening is Google's going to ignore the content on the redirected pages and then just read the content on the page that it was redirected to. So if page A has low quality content and you redirect it to page B, Google's going to read the content on page B. Of course, some signals from page A, like the link signals, canonical signals, and so forth, might pass over, but the content itself will be read on page B. Google has published another SEO video around JavaScript. This one about Angular specifically. And in this video, Google talks about how to get your titles and meta descriptions that are built in Angular web apps indexed, and also goes through Angular Universal, which is another technology that was very interesting. So definitely take a look at that if you're using Angular or you're interested in doing so. There's very, very few features left in the old Google Search Console. Google announced yesterday they retired a bunch of other features. The only things that are actually left now are the data highlighter tool, international targeting, remove URLs, crawl stats, robots.txt tester, and the URL parameter tool. The fetch and render is gone. A lot of other tools are gone. And just keep that in mind that Google only has a handful of features left in the old Google Search Console. Google said your long-term plan should be to remove all properties outside of the domain properties. So if you have, here's an example. You see here, seroundtable.com is a domain property. It actually consolidates HTTP and HTTPS, but these are old verifications I made. I verified HTTP by itself, and I verified HTTPS by itself. And Google's saying, in the long term, it might be best to remove these two and just keep that, but no rush in doing so. Google said they premier partners, again, do not get special treatment just because you're a Google partner. That's only ad or analytics or Gmail or other specifically related things. It has nothing to do with search, so they do not get any special treatment. Google said, actually, Google's testing adding icons back to the search bar. This was spotted by Joe Youngblood yesterday, covered at Search Land and at Search Roundtable this morning. You can see here's a screenshot. There's icons next to news, images, etc. This is something they actually had back in 2011, and they dropped it a year later. So it's interesting to see them testing this again. Google is testing image slide-in feature for image search. So if you're on a preview of an image, you could actually click on an image, and then it would actually let you slide up an article to see that image, the article related to that image, which is pretty cool. Google's constantly making new features there around image search, which they told us at the beginning of the year. Google has launched a new Google Adwords editor. They were renaming it Google Ads Editor, and it's version 1. It has a lot of new features with it, etc. So I wrote a long post about it over here discussing all the new features and the new logo and so forth. So definitely take a look at that. Google Ads Keyword Planner also relaunched with new features, specifically letting you do about 10 sets of keywords, C keywords, and a bunch of other features here. So definitely take a look at that. Here is a summary of all the different features. A little bit longer the video, so I'm trying to hurry up. Matt Cutts said he still leaves some honeypot traps, basically traps for SEOs to go ahead and like submit SEO spam to him so that he can go ahead and flip it over to the Google search team. He obviously no longer works at Google, hasn't so in years, but he pretty much made up the search spam team, search quality team at Google. And even though he now works for the government, he does like to leave some traps there, he said, to forward over to Google. And finally, Ahrefs, a very popular SEO tool set, has announced they are interested in building out a general search engine to compete specifically with Google because they seem fed up with Google. One is around privacy is one of the reasons, which is a DuckDuckGo reason. And the second reason is they want to share 90% of the revenue with, or profits with, the publisher. So if somebody clicks on my site from this Ahrefs search engine and that click is worth, I don't know, $1, I would get 90 cents and Ahrefs will get 10 cents. Realistically. Anyway, pretty interesting to see that. In any event, thanks so much for listening to the Search Buzz video recap. My name again is Barry Schwartz. This is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at roundtable.com over the past week. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next. Bye.